A very quick message for you. Watch out for people who are secretive without a proper context. Okay, I may need to say this one more time. Watch out. I'm saying beware of people who are secretive without the proper context. Being secretive is a tool. You do that to accomplish a purpose. Now, if you are a police officer and there's a police investigation, there are things you shouldn't mention to outsiders. Not even to certain colleagues who are not, let me say, were not licensed to know about the case. So in that case, you have to be secretive because it serves a proper purpose. So there's a proper context. If you're a manager at a bank, then you keep certain data secretive, even from your own relatives, because the bank, well, is associated with many people. So you can't go to your cousin and begin to discuss your day at work and all the files and what's in the files. No. You are the manager at the bank. You have to keep data secretive so that competitors or people with evil intentions won't get access to them. If you're a doctor and you have patients, you are secretive about your patients to guard your patient's interests. Being secretive has to do with a particular interest that needs to be guarded. Now, that interest can, let me say this, no, let's forget about the interest that's being guarded here. Being secretive is a tool, but it's also a time-consuming and energy-consuming tool. So it's only worth it to be secretive for things that are really worth it. Now, let me tell you, when people are secretive without a proper context, listen what I'm saying, a proper context. I'm not talking that avoidance mechanism they call privacy or their life, their private life, their bubble. Those mental constructs are not proper context. There must be a real life reason why they are secretive. Think about it, they're part of a community. Their existence and their will affects the community. But now the community has to accept whatever they will because it's their life, it's their privacy and all of that. That doesn't work. Even the governments who promote this privacy BS don't take it. And by the way, privacy doesn't even exist. It's a mental construct we invented just to feel secure about our negative wills. That's what privacy is all about. But I've spoken about that before. When people are secretive without a proper context, I'm telling you, watch out with such people. I'll say English is watch out for them, sorry. Because such folks are in denial. Yes, they are. And folks that persist in denial and even go so far as to live multiple lives just to get benefits from you, but refusing their natural obligations, natural responsibilities towards you, such people will bring harm to you. And once harm arrives, they always flee. They're never there to take their responsibility. I'm telling you, folks are secretive without the proper context. I'm telling you, pay attention to them. If you understand this message already, you don't have to listen to the parable, but I'm going to give a parable now. You are, let's say your name is Henriette. I'm using a Dutch name now. And you, Henriette, you work back office at the bank. I'm just making up a profession for you now. Well, it exists, but I make up a context for you. You work at the bank. You have a colleague, Celine. And you've known Celine since college. You're good friends and all of that. And you know Celine often talks about her boyfriend, Mark. And she show you a ring of Mark. And she even show you a picture of the guy. And you sense to her that she was talking about him a lot, so you assume she's in love. She really wants to be with this guy. Then one day at work at the bank, a customer comes in and asks for you. And you don't know this guy, so you ask him, who are you? And he tells you, I'm Celine's boyfriend. And then you're shocked on the inside because you've been hearing Celine talk about her boyfriend so often, but this is not the guy that she showed onto you. So you ask him, what's your name? He says, my name is Patrick. I've been with Celine for almost 1.5 years. We're about to live together soon. And then you're more confused, but you control yourself so he won't see it. And he hands you over a box, that small box that's meant for Celine. You take it. But there's the thing. You never mentioned to Celine that someone came and brought the box onto her. You're very confused by this. And then you talk about this with your parents and with some friends, and your friends decide, you know what, we're going to help you. And they dig into the affairs of this Celine, and they found out that she's a pathological liar and that she's playing multiple men at the same time. She's like having relationships with 8 guys at the same time, always claiming to be this busy businesswoman, and she promised a good future with all of them. She love bombs all of them. And those guys, being tricked, thinking this woman really loves them, began to sponsor her with gifts and with financial aid. And she does this so often. At the work, at her job, she pretends to have a boyfriend so that people won't notice what she's really doing. And that so-called boyfriend, Mark, is just a homosexual she knows during her days in college. She used to cover up for her. He's her partner in crime. So everyone thinks, oh, that's a boyfriend. Look at them. They're kissing together on a picture. All lies. Now, and here's the thing. You, Henriette, when you find out all of this, you are shocked and you think, how could I see this coming? But then you remember, hold on a minute, I did saw it coming. When you first met Celine, she was always like, you know what, you never know with strangers. She was always this so-called private person. She was always this individual that always suspected others to have ulterior motives. Now you understand that she was conditioning you to not notice her behavior. She was conditioning you not to pay attention to her affairs so you won't notice what she's involved with. She conditioned you so you won't notice she was using you as a cover for her own unexamined expectations. Look, there's a difference between a busybody and being someone that's objectively alert. A busybody is someone who just wants relief and they use the affairs of others to seek relief at someone else's expense. That's a busybody. But being objectively alert, that's what everyone ought to do. We often delegate this responsibility to the cops and to the feds or to whatever institution. No, everyone, according to their ability, needs to be objectively alert. If someone is secretive without the proper context, that's a big red flag. Something doesn't add up. And then, as far as you can, you look into them. I'm not telling you to go right in your car around their house and stalk them, all of that, but look into them. And then the world will say, it's none of your business, it's their life, it's their privacy. No. They're part of the community, they're there, their energy fields affects other people, so they are accountable to the impact and effect they have on others. They can have a will, but their will has limit. Well, their will has to be checked. They can't will whatever they will, and people just have to find a way to do it because it's their life, their choice. No. Look into them. And here's the thing. People that are secretive without the proper context, they will project that conflict onto you because they are in conflict. But they're in denial of this conflict. So the only way for them to remain active in their lie is to project this conflict and all this tension onto you. So they'll begin to attack you psychically. I talked about psych attacks before. It's when people meditate their negative energy on you and it streams towards you and you're affected in a destructive manner. Now such people will perform psych attacks on you, consciously or unconsciously. I'm not saying that such an individual is by definition a witch or a warlock. Nevertheless, you don't have to be a witch nor a warlock to exercise psychic violence. People that are secretive without the proper context, sooner or later they'll subject you, they'll target you with psychic violence. They will. They'll transfer that conflict onto you because they don't want to take responsibility for that will of theirs. It doesn't add up. And they target you with psychic violence, so all attention goes to you and nobody notices them. Okay, let me give another parable, very short one. Let's say now you are, I'm going to take the same context now, but now I'm going to make it into a guy. So you have this guy at the office, he works there, and he sees this Celine and this Henriette. But let's say now that this so-called boyfriend who was really being used never showed up. This guy at the workplace notices that this Celine is often texting on her phone during her work. Now, he doesn't say anything because he used to text also, but he noticed at her expression that she's kind of frightened that people would find out she's texting. And he thinks, hold on a minute, We work here at the office, we all text with our phones during work. Even the boss is doing it. So why is she so afraid that people may find out she's texting? The guy realized, hold on a minute, this doesn't add up here. Let's say now that this Henriette never found out about her, about who she really was. One day, Henriette's husband gets an angry phone call. It's a guy telling him to back off from his girlfriend. And the husband of Henriette thinks, what? What is this? Then a few days later he finds out there's this guy following him when he goes to work. So he informs the police about it. Now what's going on now? That Celine had one guy she was playing, and this guy is so emotionally messed up, independent, and even has a violent temper. And this Celine began to complain about Henriette's husband, that Henriette's husband was after her, was making sexual advances onto her. This was all a lie. Celine was only lying to get validation and attention from that guy. She's an energy vampire. And this guy, being so-called so in love and out of his mind, decided, I'm going to take action against this. So he looked up who Henriette was, who her husband was, and he even threatened to harm Henriette if the guy didn't stop. So look at this. Now you have a guy who's strict, who doesn't want to admit he's strict, so now he wants to justify his rage against Henriette's husband and their family. Now he wants to justify the harm he intends to do onto them. How did this come so far? Henriette was associated with Celine. But Celine was secretive without the proper context. That was a big red flag. Henriette didn't notice it. And now, because Celine had access to her, she began to affect Henriette with her negative will. And it came so far now that she transferred danger onto Henriette and Henriette's family. So now they have a narcissistic psychopath coming after them as a family. As you know, narcissistic psychopaths don't easily give up. They need to be stopped. Now, Henriette and Henriette's family, they could have missed and avoided all of this if Henriette would have noticed a red flag and distanced herself slowly from Celine. But the world conditions you to always allow people to have their will and their affairs, no matter how their affairs affect others, because it's their will, it's their life, they don't violate their privacy and all of that. The world has conditioned you to permit people to will whatever they will, even if it's a negative will, and you just have to take the consequences and find a way to circumvent it. That's not true. That's a lie. People ought to be held accountable. They can't will whatever they will. Now you can't change them. That's not your purpose, but they ought to know that they are accountable, and they can be called onto account when they go too far or when they're out of line. Now I'm not telling you to confront such people directly, because they may turn you into an instant target. They may begin to rage, play the victim and all of that. No. Look into them. Pray and look into them. And pay attention to them if they are around, if you have to deal with them. And pray consequences on them and those that enable them and to comply with them. I really mean it. Be active. Okay? People that are secretive without the proper context, watch out with them. Look, in the best case scenario, they just have emotional issues that they need to be dealt with, so they can open themselves more in a safe manner towards others. In the best case scenario, that's the case. But often, when people persist for a long time in being secretive without the proper context, I'm telling you, that's a landmine right over there. Really don't entrust yourself nor your affairs to such an individual. Look, if someone is a car mechanic and he's like this, when it comes to your car, you relate to him based on him fixing your car. Keep it on a business level. Friend, keep it on a business level. That's it. The same if he is an advisor at the bank or whatever. Know what you are dealing with. Don't operate in the benefit of the doubt. If you're not certain about something, you're not certain. And you're not going to make decisions based on something you're not certain of. In case you're not certain of, look at the facts. Look at the bigger picture. Don't operate in the benefit of the doubt, please. Because you shouldn't operate in doubt at all. To operate in doubt means you're operating in fear. And to operate in fear means you're not operating by faith. You're not operating in faith, I mean. Look, I'm recording this to alert you and to instruct you. Yes, I'm instructing you. Look into people. I'm not telling you to spend days going on Facebook, looking what they're doing and all of that. No. You're not a busybody. There's a difference between being a busybody. That means you just want data to murmur and complain about other people so that you are relieved about yourself. That's being a busybody. Some people go to fortune tellers to do this. But looking into people objectively for the right reasons, that should be normal. But that should be natural. But this natural attitude of looking into people, but just realistic, this is what the world condemns. What they approve, this willing whatever you will attitude, that's harmful. Well, agree with Christ. Again, agree with Him. Be at peace.